Hello, Internet. It has come to my attention that several people apparently feel like I don't have enough blood and gore in my videos. So this week I want to tell you about two Germanic or Northern hero myths sagas where anyone who desires blood and guts can, have their desires fulfilled. So enjoy. First, we need to talk about Starkad, one of the greatest pre-Viking northern heroes to ever lived. Apparently, he was one of those who will, stay alive for hundreds and hundreds of years because he's just too tough. Today, however, I'm going to talk to you about the time where he helped his friend Helge in a duel against a berserker Viking called Agantir and his 8 brothers. Now, this Agantir was proposing to the sister of King Ingjeld, but she had already said yes to Helge, so, well, we needed a duel to decide who to, marry the girl. So Helge decided, okay, I want to fight you, Agantir, and your 8 brothers, and I only need my friend Starkad to help. So, okay, so be done. Now, Helge slept in at the morning of the duel because it was also his the morning after his wedding. So Starkad didn't want to wake him up because, the honor would be greater if I did everything myself. So he went out to the hill where the battle was supposed to be in a massive snowstorm, sat on the wind side, pulled off his shirt, and started to pull the fleas out of his chest hair because he was just that manly. Agantir and his 7 brothers did show up, but they were sitting on the side of the hill where they were in the lee of the wind because, it was cold and snowy. But eventually one of them found the old Starkad sitting half naked, picking fleas off his own body, and they decided to have a battle. Now, usually during duels, you fought one at a time, one person versus one person, and then if there was one versus many, it was like, kill one, then move on to the next. Not Starkad. He took all of them at the same time, chopped off heads, ripped out spines, slit people's throats until all 9 berserkers lay dead. Unfortunately, at this point, Starkad himself was fairly wounded to a degree that his intestines were hanging down to the ground from the wounds in his stomach, and despite being incredibly thirsty, he couldn't drink from the snow or the nearby little stream because the blood of Agantir had poisoned it. Well, what was a hero to do? He obviously couldn't get back to the royal hall on his own, so he basically just sat down leaning against a rock with his intestines still hanging out, waiting for help to come by. The first one who came by was a man who had forfeited his honor, so Starkad obviously couldn't get his help and sent him away with a lot of curses. The next who came along was a woman who had married a thrall, i.e. a slave. So, obviously, she had forfeited his honor, and Starkad massively slut-shamed her and sent her on her way because this could really not work. And finally, only after some hours, a free peasant with great honor, that was, there's great honor in being a peasant in the Nordics, came around and was allowed to stuff his innards back inside him and bind him with some rope and get him back to the royal hall. That was Starkad. I will probably get back to him later, like the time where he basically bitch-slapped a princess for sleeping with a goldsmith, or when he bit in the grass after having his head chopped off, but that will wait until another time. We stay in the same time period now, but move further south to the original Burgundian tribes and their destruction at the hands of the Hun king Attila. You see, Attila had married the Burgundian king Gunnar's sister, and now he really wanted to get his hands on the famous Burgundian treasure. This was basically the golden treasure that Sigurd Fafnir's had managed to collect in his particular sagas. However, it was now the property of Gunnar, and Attila really wanted to get his hand on it. So, well, he invited his brother-in-laws to a small dinner party, And there he had planned to capture them, destroy their people, and basically do nasty things to them until they told him where they had hidden the treasure. As planned, so it went. Attila invited his brother-in-laws to a dinner party, a small meeting, and they arrived very, unarmed and anything except for their personal weaponry. Now, one of Attila's courtiers did try to tell the brothers what was about to happen, but of course, this was their brother-in-law who was inviting them to dinner, so they basically just hit him in the head with a large axe for, bad-mouthing his master. However, it was, of course, true. Attila had his camp filled with his armed Huns who murdered the Burgundians and drove them into extinction, while capturing Gunnar and his brother Håkon and tying them to large poles where he could, ask them politely to tell him where the treasure was hidden. Unfortunately, Gunnar was a fairly manly person and decided that, he didn't really have any intention of telling Attila anything, unless he saw his brother's bloody heart in front of him first. So, Attila, not being one to waste a spare, decided to instead take one of his slaves and cut him up and show his heart to Gunnar. Unfortunately, the slave was not a brave man and was shaking like an oak leaf while they cut him off and removed his heart. So the heart itself was still shaking and shivering when it was brought in front of Gunnar, who immediately could tell that was obviously not his brother's heart, so he still didn't want to say anything. Well, Attila really wanted this gold, so he took Håkon and cut him up and removed his heart, and while doing it, Håkon just laughed when he felt the knife go into him, and all was amazed at the height of his manliness. Well, Attila then brought the heart to Gunnar, who then replied, "Yes, that doesn't shake at all. I know only one man who could be so brave. This has to be my brother's heart. Unfortunately for you, this means that now I'm the only one who knows where the treasure is, and I'm still not going to tell you. Ha ha." I almost hesitate to tell you the rest of this lovely story, but Attila, now pissed off beyond all comparison, threw Gunnar into a pit of vipers like was done to Ragnar Lothbrok 400 years later, and there, unfortunately, he died despite the attempts of his sister Attila's wife, of course, to save him. So, yeah, that was the end of the Burgundians. A fake dinner invitation and a man deciding to utterly troll the king of the Huns. Well, that was it. I hope you enjoyed the story. To those of you who has requested more blood, guts and gore, well, this one was for you. So I definitely hope that you can now rest easily knowing that I can definitely do, entrails and spilt brains and bucket of blood if we need to go there. So yeah, until next time, I have been the Sage, and I wish you all a very happy day.